Games Workshop's Basement, hosted by John Quennell, Danny McDevitt, Val Heffelfinger. I'm Dickie, and it's Grim After Dark.
Welcome to Grim After Dark, Warhammer 40,000's only late night show for some reason. My name is John, and I'm here to misinform and entertain as we talk about the goings-on over the last week in the world of Warhammer. This week, we talk about the stale state of 40k streaming. We look at some homemade greatness. We're going to go around the net, and we have a special stream-themed eBay Price is Right. I tend to enunciate every word in that. But before we go on, if you enjoy what you see or what you're listening to, you can support us by liking or subscribing wherever it will let you. You're able to throw a couple dollars our way by becoming a member on YouTube or even commenting the answer to this question below. What do you want from a Warhammer stream? But before we can get started, let's meet the team. First up, he's the co-host with the co-most. He's our competitive champion all the way from Moscow, Idaho. Is Danny McDevitt.
Idaho?
I know, I said it right this time. He's the beautiful face of everything square-based. He is a cease and desist of my heart. He's a fantasy enthusiast and a casual 40k enjoyer. It's Valerie Heffelfinger.
That was our only joke, John. And you cut it. Idaho. Say it, Frenchie.
And then finally, he's the man behind the curtain. He puts the couch in Canada. It's superstar producer, Tech Priest Dickie.
Hello.
See, I mispronounced more words to make up for the fact that I obviously completely on purpose pronounced the Moscow, Idaho completely correctly for the first time ever.
I appreciate that, John. I view it as a mark of respect, and I think that this is going to improve our relationship.
Oh, fuck. Well, all the way from Moscow, Idaho. How are you doing, Danny? How has your week been?
John, the week has been great. I've been soaking in some glorious 40k news. I wish I could talk about it, but I can't. But I'm ready for the next couple of weeks to roll by here.
Oh, yeah, it's all about, as I'm just going to say, literally breaking news. Bam.
Oh, wow.
Don't look at the man behind the curtain.
Bunk bed.
Do not look behind the bunk bed. Do not look behind the bunk bed.
Man, if anyone watched this, we would be in great amount of trouble. Thankfully, no one did. But yeah, very exciting. Some great 40k stuff coming. Obviously, you're talking about Seth Oster and things you can't talk about him because they will come out in the public very soon. Yeah. Some assistant news. Val, how is everything on the Eastern Seaboard?
Man, down here in the also not contiguous United States because it's Canada. Things are good. Things have been really wonderful. I had a nice little drive and chat with Tech Priest Dickie this afternoon, or Uncle Rich, as he is in my phone.
Yep.
I guess it could be Uncle Dick. That'd be kind of funnier. But anywho, it's been good. We're getting weekly Old World updates. The spin-off success of Square Based has been wonderful. And we're gonna record another show tomorrow, so life is good over here.
Exciting, and 2 weeks away from the Square Based GT.
That's right. Thank you, John. I appreciate you identifying it as GT. Although we have dropped below GT numbers. We're down to 30.
Oh, what happened?
We're down to just people. Things happen. People are unable to commit. Oddly, no one from the actual Welland area is coming, and I keep and like every time I post in their Discord, they literally do not respond. They just continue on as if it wasn't posted. So I don't know. Maybe we're not so popular amongst the locals.
I think maybe could this be like a preview of how Old World will be received by the fan base?
What do you mean by that, John?
Months of excitement, build up. Everyone's like, "Yeah, it's coming back. I'm really excited for it." But then when it comes to the actual event, everyone just doesn't bother.
Not a fucking chance.
Unbelievable! I can't believe you don't have more faith in this game, John.
No shot.
I have all the faith, and also, I'm just gonna have weird lines above my head. It's fine. If I touch anything, the desk will fall apart.
Look, John, you've already breached the walls of reality once tonight. Like, let's just.
Now people know that I'm not actually slouched in a chair in a warehouse. Oh,
I mean,
realistic.
I have tremendous confidence in the old world. I think those who like that kind of thing are going to like this a lot.
that's fair. That's good. Hopefully, it'll be a big hit in the USA because I want a plastic steam tank. I know I'm not going to get it, or I guess a new plastic steam tank.
You could have that right now. It's available on the web store. If the web store is available, I mean that's probably the bigger problem with getting a steam tank.
I made the joke. The fun thing, I went on Friday night. I had a sudden urge to buy a whole bunch of Ophidian destroyers for no real reason.
Oh yeah.
But when I went onto GW's website, I had to go in a queuing system on a Friday night at 7 p.m.
Interesting.
Which I was like, well, this is obviously peak time. And that's why we have 2-week pre-order windows now. I'm guessing that's okay.
You're gonna need 4 for the old world.
This week's comment of the week brought to you by our friends at Frontline Gaming. They're open 24/7 at frontlinegaming.org, and all your Games Workshop products is available at a discounted price, or better yet, through their secondhand store. And watch out this week; they have a Black Friday sale. I'm sure we have a referral code. We never use it, but in the comments section,
nor does everyone else.
No, if you want to just email Frontline and just say nice things about me, then just confuse people. This week, Nick Dorch, superstar producer of Signals from the Frontline.
Great guy.
Great guy. Great guy. Friend of the show. Great guy.
Saddled with terrible hosts, but that's okay.
Look, you can fault a man a little bit for the company that he keeps, but not entirely.
No, that's fair. He makes Seth look good. Can you imagine how Dickie, you know how difficult that task is.
Oh God.
Dickie handed that show off like a bag of flaming poop on a doorstep. That's how Nick Dorch received that one.
Oh, I trained. I gave some training. I was a good.
Yeah, did you?
He came in saying, if this is the most meta Warhammer show, which I think we talked about last week, how we make jokes to make each other laugh, and maybe 3 people who are part of like 4 levels of secret communities would understand. Why isn't this called Meta Chasers?
Because that's a terrible name.
He is He is referring to the show that was originally called State of Play, but then changed to the Thursday show, but then changed to Meta Chasers.
It was actually never called State of Play because they decided the Thursday show was the better name. So no, it was never State of Play. Because if it was called State of Play, then Lawrence from Tabletop Tactics, the very successful YouTube guy, wouldn't have been able to name his show State of Play. But whatever.
Whose idea was the Frasier theme?
Where did the Frasier theme come from, Dickie?
Me or you? I think we were just
Wasn't
brainstorming
me.
one day. I think we were brainstorming one day.
I think that was a Dickie thing for sure, because I remember him wanting. I think it had something to do with how the design for their the head outlines came.
Yeah.
And then he found some knockoff version of the Frasier theme that was it's a perfect knockoff because it sounds like it.
A Frasier T-shirt tonight.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
That's meta.
I think my favorite ongoing joke, Danny will tell you, my favorite jokes are ones that aren't funny, but are made funny through repetition.
It's true.
My favorite one was talking about Frasier and just placing him and Niles in different movies. And I would just say,
I forgot.
So, and you can see Danny now, this isn't funny. I'm like, well, imagine Fast Five. But instead of Dominic Toretto, it's Niles Crane from the television show Frasier. And then instead of Luke Hobbs, it's Martin Crane from the TV show Frasier.
Yeah. Well,
and then instead of Letty, Dom's going, it's Frasier Crane from the TV show Frasier.
Considering Kelsey Grammer is a coked up lunatic, or at least he was in his younger years, he would probably fit right in a Fast and Furious franchise.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have 10 kids?
I don't know.
Just imagine that terrible joke, but repeated daily, brought up whenever possible. For what would you say, about 4 months, 5 months? It was a long time.
It was. It almost killed me once.
Wasn't it when I said it was The Empire Strikes Back and Frasier was Chewbacca? Yeah,
right.
There we go. Moving on, we have one more comment of the week section coming in after I beautifully asked people to stop commenting on the Terminator video, which just caused more people to comment on the Terminator video. We have Mr. Chaz Sexton 5 days in a row of commenting until we release Grim After Dark branded wheeling tools and the Ross Geller pivot yell. These non-contigs need to be stopped. 1 out of 5 would watch again, and I will say we're only 75% non-contig. Danny is very tigged.
Fully tigged out these days.
And then I'm only commenting because I love hearing you guys talk about this on the podcast.
The best reason.
And then, see, Dickie, you said it wouldn't work to get interaction hits in there, but there we go.
Yeah. Great.
Turns out it does work. I don't have anything else for an intro, guys. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about, or we move straight on to something interesting?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a bold claim, but
I'll be honest with you. I'm fucking tired of talking about 40K right now. Can we talk about some old world shit? There's a lot of stuff that just came out today, and I've been dying to talk about it.
We have literally nothing prepared for old world.
What? Yeah. Yeah, too bad Dickie did.
Yeah, boy.
So old world. Apparently every Monday, about a day after I finish writing this show, we're gonna get an old world update.
That's right.
Danny,
That's why Squared Base records on Tuesdays now.
Makes sense.
So we're scooping you? Is that what
I'm scooping my own show. That's okay.
Let's get a preview of what's going to go on in Squarebase tomorrow. I hear Rob's got like a real cool ability of sending out cease and desist, so we'll be fine. Danny, Val, what's going on in the old world?
Yeah, so they talked about the shooting phase today.
Sure did,
which is real cool.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of similarities to previous editions, but some new interesting things like you can only shoot from the front rank unless you have volley fire, and then you can shoot from the second rank too, which is pretty cool.
Or if you're on a hill,
or on a hill, which was a rule for a long time too.
Indeed.
I had a bunch of like 1 man wide 10 or 1 man deep 10 wide trays for handgunners and crossbowmen and stuff like that for when I couldn't deploy them on hills. So I liked some of the rules. Like we had some trade over here. Yep. John, keep studying that, buddy. I'm gonna
learn how to play Empire real good.
Yep. Perfect. That's the right book for it.
That's right. Just short Empire.
Right?
Oh dear.
Yep.
AP value. That's an interesting thing. I thought. Before AP, AP was based on the strength of the weapon or the attack, and now they have discrete AP values. That's an innovation lifted from other game systems, which is cool.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that affects close combat attacks and dealing with things with high armor saves for sure. Like armor save might become a really, really valuable thing to have.
Whereas before it kind of wasn't.
Well, yeah, right. It was either like you had a really good armor save or
nothing.
You had trash. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
if we scroll down, this one's fun. Rolling to hit is hilarious. I find this funny.
Go ahead. Why is it
I have
funny?
great memories of this table, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I find it funny because you can find yourself in a place where you're hitting on more than a 7, like more than a 6, so you can be 7+ basically.
Yeah.
Which requires, but this isn't talking about that yet. This is talking about the reroll. So they added an extra. I was hoping for them to just get rid of the concept of 7+ to hit, but instead they doubled down and they said, no, if you have a high ballistic skill, we're going to give you a reroll with a convoluted pattern to it. I mean, it's we can figure it out, but it is a little bit it's a little bit extra. I think.
I thought this was the way that it was in 8th.
For BS6 or higher, like the rerolls. No. This is not an 8th. Maybe it existed in previous to that, but no, not an 8th.
For sure, this is a mechanic they've used before.
8th had the 7+ to hit, which is Basically, if you're 7+ hit,
Yeah.
means you have to hit on a 6 and then a 4 up. Like it's just a very unlikely thing to happen. It's just the superfluous rule. What do you think of the to wound in chart?
I love
It's
this
different.
chart.
Oh man, double +1, right, Danny?
Double +1, baby.
Sort of like okay, yeah, whatever that means. Dickie gave me this math before the show, and he gave me this explanation. It was
Not correct.
It was interesting. So I feel like what they changed here is the value in which an attack can no longer wound something.
Yeah,
like 8th edition was just 6s across the board for this for the high toughness values, and
which
then
I liked.
7th had a different breakpoint. So
Yes.
it was moved back. I think they gave it like an extra 1 over now where you can't wound it, I think, kind of, or where you can still wound it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so to me this matters only if they've taken notice of 40k and they have actually put people like put units distributed them more along this toughness chart, because fantasy traditionally would be toughness 2 to 6 essentially for like 99% of all things.
Right. 7 was basically war machines, and
if you were shooting at them.
Dragons, like star dragons, had toughness 7, but yeah, very few things.
Like even a steam tank was T6. So like the vast majority of the game sort of was in a very small number of pips. So I don't know. This gives me some hope, as does the like benefit to having a high ballistic skill that like they actually use the full range. Because like the funny thing about people saying like the D6 system is too small, you got to go to a D10 or like the characteristic 10 system is too narrow, is that they never use the whole range of it anyway. So like if this leads to them actually making use of it, then you get the thing that's happening in 40k where you have to have the right tools for the right job, and that's cool. Adds to the rock paper scissory element.
I like the mention of some of the things that we've seen before, like quick shot, like quick, like kind of like quick to fire, and then also the fire and flee with skirmishing cavalry. I'm really interested to see kind of how that looks and how that works out. Like, is that replacing fast cavalry? Will that be something totally new? I don't know. It's cool to speculate, though.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of fun. One of my favorite things, those shadow confirmation in this one of this whole thing, is that we see a reference to demonology.
Yeah.
And demonology, what that says to me is that even though we're gonna have like get you by or index style lists, is that we're gonna have faction specific lores of magic, and that matters a lot because you get a lot of the flavor for various armies from their lores of magic. So demonology, that might just be Wars of Chaos, who are still a core faction, but this gives me hope for something like Vampire Counts, which will be a PDF faction when it first drops, because there's just so many factions that are really defined by their magic lore. So this says to me that they're actually gonna have some unique things, which is great.
It's also a really great collection of short stories by Rick Moody. I just wanted to throw that in there as well.
Give it up to Rick Moody.
Yeah, demonology hasn't been like a lore of magic, I think, since like
that's a 7th. Wasn't demonology a 7th edition 40k?
There was a it was it? No, I think it was 6th. Maybe it was 7th. I remember you used to have to use reserve points for it.
My memories of demonology are purely 40k based, and it was when everything could summon demons.
Yeah, because it was Malefic and Sanctic demonology.
Yeah,
and it was awful.
That might be what I was thinking of, actually. But anyway, overall, it's going to be a very crunchy, very old-fashioned Games Workshop game, which is, I think, exactly what people are hoping for.
Also, I'd like to point out neither of these spells seem particularly dangerous.
I mean, the fireball is
cool.
It's
good.
I mean, it's what it was. Although it doesn't have
no AP.
No AP. Yeah, it has no AP. That's interesting. The magical vortex, I saw people being like, meh, but I mean, it remains in play. It's going to be annoying, and I don't know. This is kind of cool.
You can use it to stop like a flank charge from like fast cavalry for no or like a real light unit like combat skirmishers. Like potentially, I can see it being used for that kind of thing. But
also, I'll be really curious to see how many. How many spells does a given caster have access to? Do they get one for every phase? How many times can they cast? Like all those kinds of constraints will make it interesting. Like, maybe they get like four of them, and they get to pick one for each phase. I don't know.
And this makes me too wonder, like, so one of these is labeled Demonology and one of them is labeled as Battle Magic. So, like, is Battle Magic going to be a combination of all the different colleges, or like in one lore, or is it going to be like common spells, quote unquote, or is it going to be something like more extensive than that? I don't know.
So yeah, like in the timeline, like as I'm sure Danny is well aware, the colleges of magic have not yet been established because they're actually
Right.
established as part of the crescendo of what this timeline gets us to, which is the Great War against Chaos. So at the end of that, Teclis comes over, trains them up. But before that, from what I understand, battle magic is something like, I don't know, a generic thing, like they're hedge wizards. They're like less focused and trained wizards can make use of. So maybe that's their generic access.
I guess to me, it's more of like the representation of like using one wind in particular over the other winds, like because that's what each of the different colleges is attuned to, like a particular wind of magic, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's interesting that they might be combining those because like previously in previous editions for the last, gosh, since I can last remember, you always drew from one deck of cards for spells, or you rolled on one table for the spells that you had. So it might be interesting to have things be a little bit more regimented for wizards, like overall.
You guys expecting picking spells or random?
It could even be purchasing spells. I mean, these don't have point values attached to them, but I mean, I could even see that as an option too.
It can go a lot of ways. They are used. I mean, another big thing is that they've obviously templates are back. That'll be interesting because base sizes have increased. So if templates are back, that kind of now that actually does make the basing situation kind of more intriguing. But like how they actually do that, because they aren't like completely ignoring like game design things that they've figured out over time. So like it is, I feel like picking would be a minimum, but who knows? Maybe it'll be random.
Or, like Heresy right now, right? Like the way that they handle the different, like,
how do they do it?
Things they have it so where you pick a discipline and there's 2 powers associated with that discipline.
Okay.
And so that's what you have access to. So it might be a situation like that for each of the lores where it's like, these are the 2 things that this wizard gets to do, but then you're limiting like how good is like a wizard lord compared to a normal wizard, and
maybe
I think you
casting
kind of
bonus
yourself without some options.
I feel like magic is just so integral that I don't know.
Yeah.
You hope that they'll have more than that. More
It's
crunch.
also the part of these editions that they've had, I feel like, where Games Workshop is either, well, usually I would say there's been some kind of ball dropping where it doesn't matter very much, or it can be way over tuned or way overpowered potentially. So I feel like a lot of times that's a kind of an issue with the system. So I'm interested to see if this like implementation works a little bit better or is more interesting or more fun.
My number one thing that I think will be OP is, unless they get some of the counterplay down to it, like the balance with infantry, is right now Cavalry looks in my mind, Cavalry looks like it's going to go back to being a really, really big deal.
Yeah, armor seems insane if AP is not associated with the strength value. So you better hope that your unit has some kind of really good high AP weapon if they're supposed to be armor crackers, because otherwise it doesn't seem like shooting is going to get it real well. I don't know what armor bane means on the
probably just armor piercing. I would bet that's armor piercing, an extra -1 probably.
Yeah, another thing they call out is ward saves are taken in addition to armor saves, so kind of back to the old style.
As it is now.
Yeah.
Do you guys
super
think the changes to armor and the apparent strength of cavalry has anything to do with Bretonnia being one of the starting factions in the box?
Maybe. Bretonnians traditionally actually weren't even the most heavily armored cavalry. They were rolling on a 2-up instead of a 1-up. So I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. I think it's more because of how the game is shaping up as to ignoring some of the things that 8th edition did. And going back to sort of more of the classical Warhammer Fantasy Battle stuff, where cavalry had just much better reach and tended to be elite sort of combat troops.
Yeah, they're already going to have a much higher charge range than infantry. Like you can almost always charge an infantry unit before they can charge you as cavalry.
Yes.
Nick D in chat, our Ward saves named after the illustrious Matt Ward. I think he wrote a lot of really good books for Warhammer Fantasy, right?
It's true.
I am so like there's I don't know if you guys have noticed, but on YouTube there is this like big time like glut of really cool interviews with like games designers from sort of the golden age of Games Workshop, 90s, early 2000s guys. Really long form. You can find a lot of them on like Jordan Sorcery, but there's also they're popping up from other channels too. But I haven't seen one guy from sort of the immediate aftermath of that, like say like the 06, 07 crowd plus. And that includes Matt Ward. I would love to see an interview with Matt Ward. Matt Ward, if you're a listener, please sit down with me. I would love to talk to you in a compassionate manner about what the hell happened and what was going on in Games Workshop during your era.
If you are one of the 4 people who watches our show, Matt Ward, then please reach out and explain why.
Yeah, and like I honestly don't think he deserves kind of the opprobrium that he gets like from a lot of people. So
I think his bullying honestly was the reason that the names were taken off of the books.
Yeah, for sure.
So if I might interject, because I've been watching all these freaking interviews, that is actually a Rick Priestley thing, going back well before Matt Ward. And although they did say that, it was always a corporate culture thing to not have or to try not to have credited people, because they didn't want to have these guys to sort of rise up to who became bigger than the studio, like your Andy Chambers, like Alessio Calvatore, Thomas Pirinen, who all like were able to turn their notoriety into better paying jobs.
I did I dropped in chat right here, by the way. My favorite link is for the Forge World Visual Studio YouTube page, which Danny and I drunkenly watched one night, which is just 20-year-old videos explaining Forge World models.
Yes.
So old.
It was, yeah. Dude, but it's a crazy good channel.
There's also, I always forget the name of it. I think I have it in my YouTube sub somewhere, but there's an original just studio channel where, like, I think actually they're on there. I think the last thing they preview is the last Tomb Kings book. So it stops at around 2010. So it's right when they go dark, right? Like they were starting it, and it's all the same people. It's really funny that way. Like Robin Credis is front and center on them. I remember that the Stompa reveal video was on there. So yeah, there's some funny stuff. And I just guess they lost whatever intern ran it left with the password, and they can't take it down, which is just great. Some good Games Workshop history if you want to go back and look at it.
Some good classic stuff in there. But yeah, thank you for our weekly meander down the old world. Of course, if you guys want to see a full review and preview of all of the old world rules and news every week, check out Val on his preferred podcast, Square Based, where he gets to talk about things he wants to talk about.
Hey, I like this one too. I'm still here.
I think it's the tagline for your show. I'm going to talk about my stuff. Oh, let's jump into another semi-serious topic. Let's talk state of play.
Ah, Jesus Christ. Why?
So loud.
Oh, welcome to State of Play, the segment where we catch up with what's been what we've been up to in Warhammer. But this week, I want to talk about something else. While kind of perusing the depths for around the net, like I do, I found this post here from Nico Gonzalez. It says, shout out to YouTuber Battle Reports. There's a market for smaller games of 500 to 1500 points. And that had me really thinking about as Warhammer streaming and Warhammer Battle Reports as a whole, and how for the streaming anyway, it's basically just Joe now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's true. There's definitely people still trying. But yeah, I mean, Joe, the guy shows up every week, and he puts on a very competent, good show. He's developed a following. So that's not surprising to me that he's gotten the spot he has.
Mm-hmm. Val, Dickie, you guys ran streams for like a long time, high quality, but again, weren't able to quite maybe put the time in necessary to drive around the country in a van doing nothing with streaming Warhammer. But something I've thought about is, and that's no knock on Joe, man. If I could do that, then absolutely. It just my wife and child would not be as happy as I would be. There's not been a lot of growth in sort of the streaming market and kind of presentation. We've seen some things, again, mostly from Joe, where we have kind of PTZ, like movable cameras. We have like a little camera on a track. But why do you think it is that we've kind of reached this plateau of presentation?
Streaming is really hard. It's really, really hard. I think if there's one thing if I were to write a memoir of my on the road streaming days, it would be just how much I scoffed at the technical challenge of streaming. And I remember literally cursing myself by like derisively saying something like, like everyone's sort of pretty pleased that they can get a top-down camera and like a scoreboard. And I was just like, whatever, like that's bullshit. No, it's not actually. To even do that consistently, with the constraints of being on the road, trying to get all your parts coming out of a box or luggage or suitcase or whatever. It's just very, very hard, and it's incredibly high effort. The returns off of it. And I think this is really the thing that separates Joe from, even guys like Robert, the Honest Wargamer, is just the consistency with him being out there, because it is so disheartening. And I was lucky because I was broadcasting like big events, right? That had their own gravity and like pulled people to want to watch my half-baked streams. But they, like for the most part, like if you're just a tournament and you're trying to like just do some coverage of it and have it up, you might have a few watchers, you might get a few views, and you put so much effort and probably at least a few $1,000s into getting that. It's just the diminishing returns of streaming is really harsh. And so a guy like Joe, who's just shows up and is consistent and is always there, is able to build an audience, able to build a Patreon, able to make it much more worth his while for doing it. And also just that commitment. He went in all the way, like from hop. I think that's really what separates Joe, is just by the end of it, I was really obsessed with streaming those big events because I thought that was what would get the audience, and it was. That really did help, doing things like the US Open and all the frontline gaming majors. But ultimately, I think, if streaming is going to be a thing, that, the stream is the circuit, is what I kind of arrived at, which is like, as long as it's something that people know is going to happen every weekend, doesn't matter what the event is. It's about the show that you put on, and I think that's what Joe does.
Danny, you play in like a lot of events. You're at a GT most weekends. How does the presence of like a stream table affect your kind of opinion of the event, or kind of your view of it?
Like almost every event that I go to has a stream table. Like, so people stream stuff. I don't really mind. I've been on the stream a couple of times at different events. Would it be nice to have somebody who's like a little bit more professional, maybe? I think that adds some allure to the event. Maybe like, oh, maybe I'll get featured, maybe I'll be on there. I can see that thought process going through some people's heads. Then I can also see a lot of people being like, I never want to be on stream ever, please.
Yeah.
It did happen a lot. Yeah,
it happened. I mean, my hope for it always was that it would become very be an expectation. And I think amongst people out there, like it almost is that that you can go and view these things. But yeah, the quality is going to vary a lot. I think some kudos to Games Workshop. For a while I would I don't know, scoffed that they hadn't really innovated or changed much since I'd left. But actually, going back and watching, what they've been doing recently, they've definitely started to add elements to the stream. They still don't have player audio, but that's I think more of a constraint imposed by the powers that be there. So it's they definitely have evolved their coverage. Although you still don't really see it promoted, which is a terrible shame. Like especially. Considering how much better they are getting at actually executing a stream for their events. And of course, Adam Camilleri from the terribly named Meta Chasers stepped up into the booth.
My green screen tonight is in honor of Cavalry because it's just awful, like here and everywhere.
Well,
fell afraid at the edges. Yeah.
Hey, what might have been had I gotten Adam Camilleri and a green screen from Australia from the beginning, but and that's not a slight, by the way, against Nick Nadavati. It was just that going into it, I had really planned to have remote casters, and then had to deal with setting up an entire on the scene studio, which was not something I expected. But anyway.
Something you pointed out, Val, was that you did work with the Games Workshop on some of their streams, and you've kind of been impressed by the increasing quality of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Should GW provide like creative support or support for people looking to stream 40K as a way to kind of increase that kind of footprint?
I think they barely like. To me, it really does look like a feature of the U.S. Open, and I do know personally in operate like in my experience with Mike Brandt, like he who happens to be the guy who is responsible for putting on the U.S. Open series.
Oh, Mike Brandt.
Yes, that Michael Brandt. For him it was an essential element, right? Less essential than say Fiberglass Space Marine, but nonetheless it was something that from the beginning streaming needed to be a part of the US Open, and so they have, I think, just incrementally got better. I think driven a lot by Paul. I was calling Mike Murphy. Paul Murphy has been really
Paul Brand.
been a life force behind that one too. And the guys who came on and picked up the standard after I left from the technical side of clearly, it took them a few different, in the second year they went through a couple different crews, but I think they sort of have a consistent group now that is operating the stream, and I don't know, it's good. It looks good, and I don't know. I think they're doing a great job. Now it's going to sound real good too.
Danny, what do you think? So a lot of streams I watch are for games like I'm not going to play, or kind of I'm just sort of interested in. What kind of barrier does the complexity of 40K play in reducing kind of the viewership of these streams? Because I say there's not a lot of crossover to people just kind of browsing Twitch or YouTube. It's mainly people who know the game, know the event, or going there specifically.
For sure. I mean, yeah, I think that makes it more difficult to have broad appeal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like with having the amount of like the depth of knowledge that you need to even kind of approach the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people tell me before that like, oh yeah, that game looks really cool, but like I might try reading the background one time, but I'm not going to take a deep dive. It seems like there's too much to this. So yeah, I can definitely see that being a barrier to entry or a barrier to viewership potentially if you're going to be streaming on like a major general platform. But again, like you said, the audience is pretty much just going to be that of people that are interested in watching this.
Oh, that was a great count-in. Thank you.
We're back.
Flawless, seamless, back again. All of us here after some technical issues. On the plus side, we're going to skip a whole bunch of stuff until next week, which is fine. And we're going to go straight into a little favorite of ours. Dickie, if you want to hit this bumper but not crash the stream.
So loud.
That's why I take the earpiece out. That is so loud.
Why?
No, it's not good. It's like the number one complaint people ever have is it's too loud.
Actually, one of their comments from eBay, from YouTube last week that I didn't pull up was that they like the loud music and it's a part of the show now.
Jesus.
So it's just a gimmick.
Why don't people listen? Because they're deaf.
Tonight on a special streaming edition of the eBay Prices Right, we're looking for the next great Warhammer price predictor. Our contestants will bid on a series of stream-related Warhammer items recently sold on eBay. Will they guess the wet and wild final auction price and win nothing? Direct from a quick eBay search I did yesterday, our panel has to know their streaming and their Warhammer. So if you've ever wondered how much streaming models are, you're in the right place. Tonight we say, who knows their Warhammer and who's slowly eroding into a lake. Let the bidding begin, and the special wet eBay price is right. First contestant, hailing from Moscow, Idaho. He is a law student in his final year. He might be able to pass the bar, but can he pass this quiz? It's perennial favorite, Danny McDevitt.
Hi, John.
Hi, Danny. And his opponent from the frozen, forgotten, toxic wasteland of Toronto, Canada, our pantomime villain. He can secure your future for a fee, but can he guess how much you spent on eBay? It's Val Heffelfinger.
Hey,
Wow.
the Bills are terrible.
Did you come up with a hand dance for this, like, for your game show?
Well, I think it's because of the next slide.
Was that in the show notes?
Here is the.
I did review them 30 seconds before the show started.
That's the old Val Heffelfinger amendment. But apparently that only counts for games that he doesn't enjoy or thinks are entertaining. Does he cheat and tries to make them entertaining? So we don't have to do that next slide anymore.
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. I would rather just crash the entire stream. And then we're going to call it good. So are you guys ready? What kind of items, by the way, do you think you're going to see in a streaming eBay? Or we can just show you whatever works.
Hey.
Well, you did hint at it would be, rather than stream equipment, maybe river related miniatures or swampy miniatures.
I thought you might have a leg up on the cost of streaming equipment.
Maybe I don't know what I've bitterly hung on to all my gear, so I don't know what the resale value of my streaming equipment is.
That's not true. I have a very nice Telecaster downstairs I use for math notes.
And I still have the pen for it.
No, I went out and bought a pen.
Damn it.
But yeah, so it's a lot of river streaming related stuff. First off, we have Bombers over the Sulphur River, old GW board game created by Andy Chambers before it became the GW Design Studio. This game here,
in Shrink.
Yeah, new in Shrink was about orc planes over a river, and I'm sure other stuff too.
I don't know if it had miniatures. Did this one? I don't think this one had miniatures. I think this was all card.
It was cardboard, right?
Yeah, I think it's all card. Okay.
I don't think I've ever played it, but I've definitely seen it before.
But yeah, Danny, then the question is, how much would you pay to Bombers over the Sulphur River?
I'm sorry, that's not the question. The question is how much some rube paid for Bombers over the Sulphur River.
On September 14th.
This is a hot new price. This is an Andy Chambers Games Workshop original. Box looks a little beat up in the corners, though.
It's not like it's Starship Troopers and his fall from grace. This is GW Andy Chambers.
I'm probably, I don't know, maybe I have no idea. John, I'm going to guess $125.
$125. He values the orc.
Was that close, Val?
I was like, do I say $100 here? Maybe because I thought you would go super low. Now I gotta. Oh, are you too high? 126.
Oh.
Let's see if the beautiful $90.
Oh, Danny. Oh no, we both missed it, right?
Oh yeah, we missed that one.
Okay, cool. Well,
you
we
both overvalue orc things, and that's okay. Next up, we have the Warhammer Fantasy Battle Roleplay Marienburg Sold Down the River Hogshead from 1999.
This is a classic.
Classic. Danny picked because we do have a friend called Hogshead, and I giggled when I saw that there.
Like,
true.
Surname is Hogshead?
His surname is Hogshead. He's actually, was it cousins or something?
Yeah, Quentin is from Art of War, is also a Hogshead.
Yeah.
But he's not a fantasy battle roleplay book.
All right, so I guess this is on me. This looks like a used copy. I'm going to go $40.
$40. Danny, how much did someone pay on September 9th for this Marienburg module?
I'm gonna go $1, John. I have to do it. I feel like it's less than that because this is a reprint. So, wow, nice.
$75.62.
Why?
Classic.
That doesn't
Marienburg is
include...
badass, man. Marienburg is one of the coolest places in the old world.
No, it is. I was working on the Marienburg army right at the end times there. I had so many man ends blades, dude. Those things are worth so much money.
I have got 40 of them for sale right now on eBay. Not moving.
Really?
Not as hot as you'd think. I thought I was going to make bank on them. And maybe I'll hold on to them because one of the three emperors in the old world, because it is the era of the three emperors,
really get behind that army. Yeah.
Is from Marienburg. So Lord no, maybe old Danny and I will both be rocking Marienburg armies in old world.
Are you more surprised by the $76 someone paid for this, or the $43 they paid in shipping for this?
That's a lot of shipping.
Yikes!
Whoa.
That's yeah.
So that's that. Okay, so that's what they paid in shipping. You're sure of that?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So $117 for a pamphlet about Marienburg.
I don't know if it's a pamphlet.
But the joke works better if it is. Otherwise, it's
Hey man, this is probably like the missing piece that they had. This Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is actually underrated as like a very like integral part of Warhammer Fantasy. It's actually where a lot of the lore was developed. It's like where a lot of the like, unlike 40K, which I think is developed like as a narrative through Black Library in a lot of depth. A lot of that depth for fantasy did come from books from Black Library, but a lot of it comes from the roleplay books. So if you want to know about Marienburg, you want a map, you're gonna need this book.
Have you guys ever played the Warhammer Fantasy ever?
Roleplay?
Roleplay?
Yeah.
I owned it. I have never played a role-playing game full stop period, and it's a big gap in my nerd cred.
Yeah,
I'm playing with a couple of guys. Like we're on a hiatus right now, but we've only stopped for about a month, but we've been playing. It's been pretty fun.
Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay?
Yeah.
That's super cool,
man.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, let's get back to the 41st millennium with our next item here. It is a Warhammer 40,000 Planetary Mighty Empires Ruins Rivers Mars Ravine Hex tile.
Oh, this is a tough one. Okay.
How much did someone pay for a single tile of Planetary Empers with a river on it?
They so I who's going first here?
You won.
You won, so you go first.
All right. So these as a set go for a staggering amount usually. A single tile, $5.
$5. Danny.
$15.
Ooh,
15.
Goes over.
That's a lot.
Man likes his Planetary Empires. Can't blame him. However, it was only $4.82.
Oh.
Dang.
I think this is the most both wrongs we've had ever. We're on 2 now.
Oh, I went over. Damn it.
Yeah, dude. You're
18
out.
cents?
It's still 1-0.
Yeah,
No.
so 2 more
Oh,
left.
man. I fist pumped a loss there. Damn it.
There's still time to go. The next one up here, I think rocks. It's Split River Stone Rock. Hobby basic material. It's literally just river rocks. How much is someone paying for river rocks?
Yeah,
Danny,
I mean, I'm gonna like if I guess $1, I was just gonna say 2. So yeah, I'm gonna guess $1.
$2.
I was gonna say for that giant pile of rocks.
Are we both over? $15.87.
And somebody paid $20 to ship it from Australia.
Let's get into the rock business.
You can't put a value on Australian rocks. They are just better overall for basic.
What?
I mean, they do have like the rock of all rocks. They got Iris Rock down there.
I guess, is that what they actually have? Is that how many of them come in the, like, what, how big are those? Could that be 10 pounds of rocks?
Good God,
for $22 shipping, it better not be.
You could get that amount of rock for literally nothing. They would let you walk away with that in your pocket.
You just have to find where they have like a slate deposit.
Yeah.
Like, and bring a hammer.
Could you say that your Space Marine captain is standing on genuine Australian river rock?
No.
This is the new phase of hobby elitism that we're facing. Are your basic materials ethically sourced? Do they come from a far off land?
Are they blood slate, John? Is that what you're saying?
This is my basic material. It's carbon neutral. It's fine. It's
but the
impossible
children that
rock.
were forced to mine it.
It's impossible rock. It looks like rock, but it's really just oil. Moving on to the last one, Val, you are unassailable at this point so far. But Danny, you could pull back a little bit of pride.
Ooh.
And this one here is a lot. So ignore the picture. It's 6 stone trolls, 3 river trolls, metal, Warhammer Fantasy Battles. For a total of 9 trolls.
6? Wow, that's a lot of trolls.
Is this me?
The gaggle of
Yeah,
trolls.
you won.
100. $34.
$34.
Large. Danny.
Patented John, I gotta go with $69.
Quality. Why win when you can meme? As those rocks were actually
whoa!
$243.93.
Get out of here. This is unbelievable. Why?
Wow, that's
Those
a lot
are
of...
so
Because they are coveted and they're hard to come by.
I guess.
Yeah. And it's
True
a lot
story.
of them. There's 9
Classic
of them.
model. Like
They're not-
I remember
there-
those
there's
from when
9
I
of them.
first started fantasy. Those were the models, and they were the models pretty much until until the day fantasy died, because the other trolls didn't get released until AOS.
And if you pay close attention to the Orc and Goblin studio army that was revealed in one of the old world pictures, these are the stone trolls that will be officially used for the old world. So whoever paid $243.93 for 9 of them, hopefully,
Models.
it's
True story.
I mean,
that was that model was my troll for my Blood Bowl team when I was a teenager.
there it is.
Oh,
You just
nice.
cut off the stick, like the arm that's up top there, and then I painted the rock to look like a football because he was too stupid to pick up anything else in game and in lore, because he was terrible.
The official Blood Bowl troll now, I don't know if you've ever seen that model. He's so good. He came in the starter set. Like the last Blood Bowl starter set was fire. Like it is like the model. Like I don't usually gush about. I don't usually gush about like GW makes great models, but like the last Blood Bowl box set is just loaded with so many cool minis, and love that, and it's also a great game.
It seems to be this isn't the site here, but Blood Bowl, Necromunda, games like that are just where they tell the miniature designers like do whatever, just make it cool. I don't care.
Well,
and they just make the coolest models. Like
Blood Bowl 2016 was pretty reserved. Like the Rickland Reavers are like kind of boring, and like the
halfling chefs that came out, the halfling referees that came out from Forge World were fire.
Later on, yes, but I'm saying like as far as like the box set and like the teams, like they got like the first 2 teams that they released in that 2016 box set were like the worst teams they made in the whole run. Like all of them since have just been so good. And the box, if you go out and buy that box set, it's so good. It's so good. So good.
Necromunda just makes me want to go watch Fury Road again now because it's just cool, weird vehicles. But Gorka Morka will never come back if we don't support them. So go buy Rich Haulers. They look cool.
Man, referencing all those designer interviews, like Gorka Morka was just such a like internal travesty that I don't think they'll ever do to Gorka Morka again. It is probably it's like literally the reason why they don't carry enough stock is because of a like generational trauma of overstocking Gorka Morka. Like legitimately, they just had so much of it, and it all Gorka Morka was the end of specialist games as well. It's the reason why they started. Like there were other ones that were released subsequent to Gorka Morka, but it was the beginning of the end, just because of how things went with it.
It was my favorite game they've ever done by far because of how ridiculous it was.
It was a lot of fun. It was actually it was that was the game that was my sort of like bridge from fantasy into 40k because I used a lot of when Gorka Morka was like discontinued. I went and bought all the models at a discount. That was my first Orc army.
Sounds like there was a lot of them.
It was indeed.
Well, that was a fun 2-part episode of Grim After Dark this week.
We're gonna have to bring those. We're gonna have to bring those down and splice them back together again in post.
I'll work tonight and do that.
Yeah, so we're gonna keep Dickie up, burning the midnight oil to fix that. Sorry I didn't share any memes. They weren't very good this week anyway, but next week we'll look at them. It'll be fine. Dickie,
we got world champs, bro, this weekend.
Go to slide 17 real quick.
Oh gosh, I don't know what slide 17 is.
It's the number 1 and then 7, but combined together.
You son of a gun.
It's right after 16, but before 18.
Yeah, for sure. Just want to throw this one up there for you guys real quick, because people love red outline pictures of Space Marines in armor. And I really want to get your opinion on this one.
Oh, that's fantastic. I like that.
God,
I like
this.
that. The steering wheel is fantastic.
This
like
is
that.
canon to me now.
It actually makes a lot of sense, really.
Yeah. Is this how Space Marines just are now? Is just they sit?
No, just Abaddon.
Just Abaddon.
It's really like a Lord Farquaad style moment where he steps out of his armor and he's actually only 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
Terrible.
The
Beautiful
brain guy
times.
from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
You mean Krang?
Oh, yeah, that guy.
The brain
Put some
guy.
respect on that name.
Whoa.
Brain guy.
Jeez, I didn't know.
Brain guy.
I didn't know there was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles podcast.
He told the Shredder what to do. Okay, you pay him some respect.
Yeah, he was the boss.
Yeah.
He was the brain of the
He
operation.
was the head of operation.
He was some brawn too. He had a real Master Blaster vibe going.
Yeah,
And guys, if you still stuck around for this part, if you want to Photoshop Val as Krang into Dickie's belly
Please don't.
as the thing, then that
Please,
would be
no one
just
do that, please.
fantastic.
Appreciate it.
But thank you everyone for joining us here on Grim After Dark. You can find all of our socials and ways to support us at grimafterdark.com, as well as the spliced together version of this week's episode. We will be back next Monday live at 10 p.m. Eastern-ish. We'll purge all of the nurglings out of the network. Is that what GW says when their website doesn't work because they didn't put enough money in it?
Potentially.
Potentially. And if you enjoyed yourself, check out our back catalog on YouTube. But please continue commenting on the Terminator short as it is my subtle way to increase. It's my subtle way to increase interactions. But yeah, don't. You're not supposed to say that part out loud.
Yeah.
But remember, when your life feels like a never-ending siege and things can't get any worse, join us here and remember that there's always grim after dark.
It's time to step into the grim darkness with nerds gather talking Warhammer madness. Grim After Dark, the podcast with the hosts John, Danny, and Val, but they're not the most. Claiming to be experts, but it's all a facade. Talking about battles and dice rolls, they're all odd. Trying to sound cool with their Warhammer talk, but I'm here to expose. It's all just squawk. Nerds, everywhere I see talking Warhammer this, like it's a decree. But let me tell you, homie, it is all just a game. In the real world, homie, we are not the same. So put down the dice, step out of the dark. It's time to live life, nerd, make your own mark. Grim After Dark, the nerds playground, talking Warhammer this, acting all profound. But when I listen, it's all just a bunch of noise. I love roasting nerds and their stupid ass toys. Stupid ass toys, I wanna grab them, put my hands around the neck, squeeze, Warhammer squeeze, until they can't breathe again. Tell a friend, I'm out here roasting nerds again.